Does Sandman deserve a season 2 on Netflix? That is the question that Netflix executives are asking themselves right now, apparently. And that is the question we're going to try to answer in this video. Netflix notorious for canceling things before it's their time. So, do I think that they're going to cancel this show? Yes, I do. Do I want them to? No. Can I understand why they're going to cancel it, though? I think I can, from their perspective, right? So, but I don't want it to happen. So, I just got done watching this show. I'll give a little brief review. Thought, it's got some really strong actors in it. One of them falls flat, though, I've heard a lot of people point out, and I would agree. And it's also the part of the story overall that I think falls flat and is probably a reason for people taking their sweet time to finish this thing. Which, if I didn't mention, that's why Netflix wants to cancel it, because people are watching it slower than what they would want, for a show like this, right? It's not a good sign if they're taking their time to watch it. It means they might be getting bored and caring less. So if they're not even finishing the season, what makes you think they're going to come back for a season 2, So I'm talking about the actress of Rose Walker, the weaker link. I've heard people point out her acting is pretty bland, and I think it is. She's young, I guess. I don't know her exact age, but obviously she's young, so I don't want to be too hard. Not like I could do any better acting-wise, but I do think that she was a weak link. And that storyline overall, so let's take it back. You start off with some great episodes here, interesting concepts, I love it. I typically love comic book-like shows based on comic books. It motivated me to want to read the comics, and I'm going to. I'm reading the Boys comic right now, about to finish that up. And, and then I think I'll start with this. Something that kind of puts me off from it, though, is it apparently ties in with DC Comics, DC superheroes. I don't really know much about them or care, because the DC movies are shit, so it doesn't really translate for me to want to care about that. But still, I think I'll give the Sandman a shot, because, again, I did enjoy the show. It just took a little dip for me, like I said, which is where I think people drop off. So, but yeah, the first few episodes are great. I don't know exactly how many. I'll say there was the first episode with the awesome concept of seeing Dream get trapped and then seeing the world change around him as he's trapped in there. Everything else ages but him. Just really cool. I don't know, concept visually to see. I'm a little bit of a deeper thinker with a lot of things too. As a deeper thinker, like I'm, so much more intelligent than everybody. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I have deep, thoughtful, what is the word? Not psychological, type of thoughts. I don't know, existential, something like that. Sometimes, but so yeah, that was cool. And then you get the episode in the diner. Off the top of my head, awesome. Seeing what the world is like. If it's completely honest, it's not as good as it sounds, because when people are completely honest with themselves, they also lose hope. And because you can't lie to yourself, like, oh, tomorrow will be better, or maybe this will change, or I can do this differently. You get depressed if you're not lying to yourself on the most basic level, right? It's just human condition, and that's what this episode explores. And super dark. And again, I love the actor, Harry Potter actor, the actor who played the Corinthian, Jenna Coleman. She's great. I loved her from Doctor Who. That's why I put her in the picture, because Dream is just he just looks super cringy. The actor's a little bit a little bland, but that's the way the character's supposed to be, and I think it creates for some nice moments whenever you do see the softer side of him towards the end of the season. So, anyway, that was a cool episode, 24/7, I think it was called. What else? There's another one. It deals with death. I wanted this one to be a little bit better, the death episode, where she's trying to explain, like, why there's life and death, and her job in it and how she sees its importance. I guess it had some deep meaning. I don't think it quite connected with me the way I wanted it to, but still, it was on that level of, this is different, this is worth watching, along with those other 2 episodes I just spoke about. And then the Lucifer episode, if you didn't know, the show is not connected to, but based off the same material that the Lucifer Netflix show is. So that was an interesting translation to see, more comic accurate version of that. except they did the gender cast and some gender swaps and race swaps in here. Okay, it's going to happen in 2020 to whatever, it's fine, because the rest of the show was good, so, that's it's just fine. But yeah, interesting episode with him versus the devil, and again, they have a battle of the wits. I don't know what you want to call it, where it demonstrates the importance. You don't realize how important dreams are, which is something I love about the show, because what he has a line, what good is hell if the people in hell can't dream about heaven? So he kind of one-ups the devil, and the devil's going to want to come back at him at the end, for a nice little tease. So that was all great, all that stuff, all those episodes. However, whenever we get to, it's very jarring whenever we get to these sideshow freaks, this dream vortex story, it all kind of webs together, I guess, but the problem is there was no setup for any of this in the prior episodes, so it's suddenly such a huge deal all of a sudden, and we're getting like what feels like it was the main beef of the whole story, but it wasn't blended out. Those first few episodes are him trying to get his stuff back, simple concept, great execution in the episodes, but then we get into this kind of side plot, but also it's the main plot, and it feels messy, it feels so strange, and that is where I dropped off watching, right? I was so mad whenever I was in those first episodes. I read the article, okay, hey, the show might get canceled because people aren't watching quick enough. I was like, no way, this show's great. Then I got to those episodes and I started slowing down, and that's rare for me. And I was like, okay, I'm getting it now. I'm getting it why, this is the case, because it's the same thing. So, yeah, that storyline just needs some sharpening up, a little bit more blending in the story, because you just don't really care about its high stakes. I guess it does go further to develop Dream some, at the end, and he softens up a little bit. And there's a serial killer comic convention. That felt like very Garth Ennis Preacher or The Boys, same guy who wrote The Boys. That felt like something out of that moment, out of those comics or type series. The serial killer convention is so ridiculous, but some of this stuff may be a complete comic translation, because comics are like that sometimes, a lot of times where stuff isn't as blended properly and set up like what you'd be used to seeing in a TV show, like where the way this Vortex arc is just dropped in there and then dropped out and feels very strange, and I think uninteresting, because Dream's hardly in any of it or any of these characters we've established. Some characters just pop in, pop out. You expect them to be bigger parts of the story, but they aren't. But that is the way comic books just read sometimes. So I don't know. Maybe if I read the comics, I would like this even more. Maybe I'd like it even less. Some of it. But overall, I think it's great. It has a lot of potentials. Some of this stuff you may just have to see through to fruition. Like, something else I forgot to mention. I like the guy in the tavern seeing him age throughout the years, or not age, the immortal guy and his relationship with Dream, I think some of these story arcs have potential to pay off more in the future, or there's just more that we need to see. So to answer the question, I definitely think it deserves a season 2, because this was good, and they already got scripts and stuff written for season 2 apparently. So I definitely think they deserve one more shot, because if they could refine some of that, maybe a little bit better blending, with the stories going forward, or maybe we won't run into that without the Dream Vortex storyline. I don't know if that'll come up again. But I think it was just a little stumble, and I would hate to see that stumble cost them what could otherwise be a really great show. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all I got without being repetitive with the problem that I thought I had. Oh, and the last episode, the bonus episode. Again, that's another thing where it just feels like they drop it in there. Okay, Dream's had a wife before. I guess he's lived so many years, you can't just fit in everything. But he's had a wife, had a kid, That's why the story needs more time to unravel itself, I guess, But I liked it. I was glad it wasn't a complete cartoon episode like it initially seemed like it was going to be whenever we got the cat stuff, because that would have just been terrible. I'm sure it was like maybe a story from the comics that would just kind of boost it in there. But I can't stand cats. But again, interesting concepts with some of this stuff, But I did really enjoy the muse storyline. It's based on George R. Martin. That's what I'm thinking. This is his problem. He can't finish Game of Thrones because he doesn't have a muse locked up in his thing. He did for the other books, but then she escaped, and now that's why Winds of Winter isn't finished or whatever. But I'm just being silly. So yeah, let me know what you thought of the Sandman, and if I should read the comics. If you think I'd enjoy those. And I will see you in the next one.